I don't know. But anyway, God, I'm thank God the Father took him, because there was no way to live from ours. So just God the Father wanted him home. That's all.
That's true. Okay, so yeah. Okay, so usually in a Jewish ceremony, similar to other faiths, we start with Psalm 23. So I'm going to say it in Hebrew and then in English. Mizmor LeDavid, Adonai roi lo achsar binos deshi arbitzeni al mei menuchos yana aleini. Nafshi yishovi b'yamcheni b'aglei tzerek l'man shemo. Yam ki elech v'geitz al mavis al ira raf. Ki ata imodi, shivtecho mishantecha hemi yinachamuni, tarach l'fonei shulchan neged sorarai. Yishanta v'shem eroshi, kosi rivaya, ach toy v'chesed yirdufoni kol yimei chayai, v'shafti b'beis Adonai la'orach yomim. The Psalm of David, God is my shepherd, I shall not lack. In lush pastures he lays me down. Beside tranquil waters he leads me. He restores my soul. He leads me on the paths of justice for his name's sake. Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no evil, because God is with me. The rod and staff comfort me. You prepare a table before me in full view of my adversaries. You have anointed my head with oil, and my cup overflows. May only goodness and kindness pursue me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of God for the length of days. So we're here today.
Sorry, this is Psalm 23.
Psalm 23, right?
I know it.
Yeah, I think people of most faiths say it at funerals, and it's beautiful, comforting words. So we're here today to escort our good friend Morris to his final resting place, and like you said, Morris's last 10 months were very, very difficult for him, and he suffered a great deal, and we believe that whatever suffering you do in this world means you get that much more reward upstairs. So God willing, it wasn't completely wasted suffering. There was a purpose, and something good will come out of it at the end here. I was thinking about when I first met Morris, close to 37 years ago. It's a long time ago. He had to be amongst the people I worked with in the Ark, maybe number 5, number 6. I mean, very early on. And I remembered he was being evicted, to my recollection. And he came to the office with a dog named Buddy. And it was a big, beautiful dog, very friendly. Usually I wasn't crazy about people bringing dogs in the office, but Buddy everybody liked, and so I called up his landlord, and I said, it was Council for Jewish Elderly, I think, owned the building that he was in, and it's funny, 'cause thinking back, Morris was probably about my age at the time, and so they said, we can't keep him. He's just got too much stuff. He's a pack rat. He's got too much junk there. So I said, how bad could it be? So I met Morris over at the building, and he takes me in the apartment, and it was at least 10 times worse than I could have imagined. You know that song 76 Trombones? I think he had inexplicably 15 trombones. It was just unbelievable. It was floor to ceiling. I was a little thinner then, but you could only come in standing sideways, holding your breath. There was just this.
Even that far away, even that many years ago, he was like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And and I saw there was, many conversations I had with him thousands of times over the years about, getting rid of some of the stuff. He said, it's my stuff and nobody's going to tell me what to do. And
It's so worse than me, to be
Right. I have to say, I think one thing I learned from Morris, on the one hand, a lot of the gray white hairs I have in my head came from him, but he he really, one thing, very positive thing I learned, he was a man of principle, and whether or not his principle was right, he stood by his principles, and there was no convincing him he wouldn't budge an inch, and.
Get rid of some of your stuff. You don't need it.
Right, and I'm really thinking about not just all the stuff that he amassed over the years, but here we are at the cemetery, and all of us amass a little too much junk over the course of time, and and we leave this world just alone, without any of the stuff. But the one thing that he does leave the world with, I think, was the love of friends, and he was very blessed to have you as a wonderful, wonderful friend. You were very good to him.
I just wish I could have stayed with him the last year of his life, though. That bothers me pretty much.
Right, and yeah, I mean, every time this COVID thing, first of all, has been really a terrible, terrible. This is part of maybe the most painful part of the whole thing, is situations like this where you can't go visit somebody you care about. We tried moving him to a place, and I have a sister who's in a home who's disabled, and they don't let us in. It just rips my heart out. And
Yeah, I know. There's a problem with Morris. I hope he didn't feel he was deserted. They understood that we couldn't go because of the bloody virus thing. Oh, it's terrible. That was a bad part about it. That you couldn't visit or you couldn't do anything. That hurt me quite a bit.
that's and yeah, I miss him also. And like I said, he it was really part of my life for decades and decades. And it's funny. Sometimes a person leaves this world not feeling loved. I was thinking. I started hundreds and hundreds of conversations with Morris. I love you, but.
He was our worst enemy.
Right. And yeah.
Would not comply with anything. Wouldn't
True.
take medication, wouldn't do anything. But also a lot of it was due because he couldn't hear very well and he couldn't see very well.
Right.
That was the problem. Big time.
Right. And
That's why he got this tube on so many times. Because of him.
and
So I hope he's at peace now.
yeah, he's he really is in a better place. And upstairs you don't need all the junk and trombones. He had. I remember.
Records and stuff.
He had. He had approximately a dozen bowling balls. Those are the two things that stood out to me, was the bowling balls. And I said, Morris, you're 88 years old. He says, when was the last time you went bowling? So he says, yeah, but I might take it up again. I'm thinking about taking up bowling again. So there was just no negotiating with him. But yeah, I really did. I really truly loved him, with his with his stubborn spirit. I have to tell you a story, since we're standing in ready to bury Morris. Morris came in one day. This has got to be going back 35 years ago, maybe. Comes in, and he was always, one thing about Morris, he was always in a pretty good mood. He generally he had a beautiful smile, and so he comes in, and I see he's upset. It's not like him. I said, Maury, what's the matter? So he said, Buddy died. So, I said, I'm so sorry. And I don't know, so in the course of the conversation, I said, so, he was a big dog. I said, what did you do with him? So he said, I buried him. I said, where at? So he said, at Harm's Woods. So I said, Harm's Woods. I said, I said, are you allowed to do that? He said, I didn't ask anybody. Then he said, I took a shovel. Then I asked the guy, I said, how'd you get to, he didn't have, I think when I first met him, he did have a car, but he didn't have a car. So I said, how'd you get there? He said, on the one, I think he said the 155, the CTA bus. So I said, with a dead dog? He said, yeah, I had him in a hefty bag. So that's an image I'll never forget. So, but
Gotcha.
but he cared enough to give Buddy a decent burial, and and he and not just another thing that comes to mind about Morris. He was very proud. He was involved with the Boy Scouts,
Oh, I know. Yeah, yes.
and
Yes,
we
very
and
much so.
he and I called the Boy Scouts, and I know a couple of years ago we got his 75-year badge. And had he been in better shape, we probably would have, been able to get his 80-year badge. But it was a source of great pride, and
Oh, yeah.
yeah, and his life was, on the one hand, there were, a lot of really difficult challenges in his life, and his earlier
He
life
had
in
a very,
particular.
very rough life. Very sad life.
Yeah, and but that notwithstanding, he tried to make the best of things. In a strange twist of events, his first wife, with whom he had two children, um, died a few weeks ago, and the same funeral director took care of her burial. She's not buried too far from here, the same general section. But it meant a lot to me that Maury always talked about how important it was to try to get buried near his family, and we have him next to
Near
his.
his wife and his mom.
Yeah, he's right in between the two of them. So,
Yeah,
uh,
I
so,
yeah.
so,
Oh, boy.
and
So, dear.
yeah, so.
So,
Uh,
is she in the ground now?
no, we're gonna actually do that right now. We're gonna lower him
Oh,
down, okay?
okay.
And so I'll be offline for a minute or two, and we'll put, you know, they're gonna they're gonna put him. It's actually a beautiful casket, also. Uh,
Are there people there from the outside?
not just myself, the cemetery workers who are and been here every other day, so they're almost like family. These cemetery workers, lovely young men, and then the people from the funeral home.
I
Really,
thought like somebody there from the ark.
it's because of COVID. People really aren't
Oh, yeah.
going out much.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I know.
yeah. We actually had a shock in the ark that one of our clients, who was probably about 58 years old, just died. Uh, um, I don't. That came as a big shock to all of us.
Yeah, I know.
Um,
I hope the vaccinations will be, the sendings here, that things will be much better.
yeah, hopefully. Yeah, and then, like I said, it's heartbreaking. Morris in particular had this independent spirit that, he was not cut out for what he had to endure these
No,
past 10 months.
God, no. No, 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 no.
Uh, but then, one thing I'll say, he never, sometimes a person in a situation like that, they become meek. Morris kept that spirit of his, to the last day. And, this was a crazy thing. He fell and hurt his head, and he got a little gash on his head, so they sent him to the hospital to see if he needed stitches. And at the hospital, they did, a battery of tests, and I saw his platelets were very low. And it turned out, I guess, it had been undetected, but he had a leukemia many years ago, and then the leukemia came back. So that's what happened here.
Oh, is that what happened to him?
Yeah,
The leukemia came back?
yeah, the leukemia came back, and they did some transfusions, and it wasn't doing much. And I was on with the hospital, and trying to see if they would, if any options available. And they said, given how bad the condition was, they said there's no way to any treatment we would have given him would have killed him right away. So, but they told me he's probably got 6-8 weeks, is what the hospital told me. They were sending him back to the nursing home the next day. They said, they'll be in hospice, they'll keep him comfortable. And then he passed on in the hospital before they ever transferred him back. So
So the cancer got him.
yeah. And he beat it the first time, and it was pretty bad the first time.
Okay. That was a long time ago.
Yeah, I remember at the Skokie Hospital.
I feel very sad that he had to go through that I couldn't take care of him. I do feel bad about that. But I had hoped that I could take care of him because of my age and my health. But I had hoped that he would get, so we could even go visit him just through the glass door or something.
Oh,
But he was some
lid?
guy that didn't
Pardon?
look too.
There's no
Wasn't
boat.
meant to
No
be,
lid here?
you know.
Uh-huh. Okay, so we're gonna put a little earth on now. So give me a minute. We just lowered them down. Okay. And we're gonna put a little earth on. In Jewish tradition, huh? We participate in doing a little of the burial, and okay, we do a little of the shoveling manually. Like way of sort of tucking them in for a rest. And I'm gonna let the truck do the rest. Yeah, we get a little bag from the Mount of Olives, and we pour that on. And what you were so good to Morris, in any thousands of ways. And one of the I consider it a blessing to have had Morris in my life all these years. He was colorful first, but somebody I really loved and learned to love and respect. And Morris also, one of the gifts was him, bringing you into my life. So I feel blessed to have had your friendship as well all these years. Okay, and then it's not a real long service. There's another prayer I'm going to say now. So chant in Hebrew and then in English. Em lerachamim shochen bamramim Amsei menucha nechona Anfei Ashchina B'malos kadoshim tarin kazor harakia masirim es nishmas Moshe ben Avram sholach l'olamo v'avor shemispalim bad haskaras nishmaso Yigan Eden temenu chaso V'chein bal rachamim yastireo b'seisa k'nofav li'olamim Yitzrar b'tzrar achayim es nishmaso Adonai unachloso v'yanuach amishkava b'shalom v'nomar amen. God, full of mercy, who dwells on high, grant proper rest in the wings of the divine presence in the highest levels of the holy and pure ones who shine like the heavens, to the soul of Morris, who is gone to his world, and for whom we will pray. May his resting place be in the Garden of Eden. Therefore, may the Master of Mercy shelter him in the shelter of his wings for eternity. May God bind his soul in the everlasting bond of life. God is his heritage. May he repose in his resting place in peace. And let us say Amen. And Morris really is, he said, certainly the last 10 months he did not have peace in his life, and I'm going to say some of the memorial prayers for him in the synagogue, but he definitely he's in a better place,